Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative. Hi, I'm Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Today, in one of a series of Brother Be Well conversations on trauma and healing, made possible by the support of Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative, we're exploring methods and strategies for building your personal support network. Joining me for this conversation is Integrated Behavioral Health Specialist and Brother Be Well Clinical Advisor, Julio Cruz. Julio, what is up? Welcome back to Brother Be Well.
It's good to be back.
Really good to have you. Let's jump right into this, if you would, sir. It's become a bit of a cliche over the last couple of decades, I think, but the term "it takes a village," the phrase "it takes a village," is a preface of an ages old proverb about raising children. I happen to think it applies to a lot of different situations, and we at Brother Be Well argue that achieving mental health is one of those situations. It couldn't be more true, I don't think, than when someone is healing from trauma. We absolutely cannot do that alone. My first question to you, sir, what is a personal support network and why is it so important from your perspective that all of us have one of
I think that, in my opinion, a personal support network is super, super important because we are social creatures. We depend on that interaction. We need that back and forth with different people, different aspects of life, learning from one another, sharing experiences, and getting the support that we can provide. I think that we all bring different gifts to the table, and that's part of like when I look at the support network that I have, it's like what gifts, what talents do I have that some of the people that I share space with don't have, that I can share and enhance my life, and also what can I learn from them? What of the gifts they have complement me as a person?
I think that you and I might be, I don't want to say unique, but maybe in the minority, Julio. Assembling a personal support network at first blush, a lot of people don't believe that we really need one. I wonder if it's the stigma that still exists around mental health that might be holding us back from developing or establishing or forming a personal support network. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about any of that? Do you think stigma plays a role in holding us back?
Oh, absolutely. I think that as men were socialized from a very early age to be self-sufficient in many aspects of our life, and is seen as a sign of weakness when you depend on other people, or when you ask for help, or when you are not self-sufficient, or you show any emotion, right? So it's part of all that stigma that as men we had to be strong, we had to be resilient, and showing emotion is a sign of not being a man.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, or the I started to use a pretty strong word. The lies that we've told ourselves about what it means to be a man. It's not unmanly to be vulnerable or to ask for help, but we've all to some extent bought into that. So I think that might be holding us back. Anything else you can think of in addition to stigma and those ages old that framework, the things that we were taught, anything else you can think of that might be
Yeah,
keeping men from reaching out?
I think that many times is that we socialize in a very close circle, right? We especially as men, we try to keep like those friendships that we had for a long time, or like we socialize with our cousins and uncles that may share some of the same traumas and experiences. I mean, um, if I socialize with people who grew up in the same neighborhood as I did, with the same challenges, and the social barriers, the lack of mobility, and the same background of men have to be strong, resilient, and not show emotion, who am I going to be able to share that emotion with? Who, like, who do I look up to see, hey, that's somebody that understands that me being vulnerable is actually a sign of being a man, right? Because we all socialize the same way and we're taught the same thing. There is no opportunity to have that banter back and forth.
Yeah, so true, so true, so powerful as well. One of the things I've learned from a group of colleagues of ours here at Brother Be Well, we've worked very closely over the last couple of years now with the Capital City Black Nurses Association. And we've learned from them that not having a strong support circle when managing mental health and specifically healing from trauma can leave us at much higher risk for a variety of mental and physical health conditions. They include hypertension, heart disease, obesity, a weakened immune system, anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's. I could go on and on and on and on, Julio. You know the list very well. As an integrated behavioral health specialist, I'm wondering if you want to touch on any of those conditions or maybe even add to that list. And then, secondly, I want to ask from your perspective, why are those social connections so critical when we think about physical health? That connection isn't so very obvious. So just flesh that out a little bit more. We're harming our bodies when we don't reach out for help and when we don't form those social connections. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that when you're not well, when your mind, your spirit, your heart is not well, it's going to affect every aspect of your body, right? Every, like, array and myriad of ailments are going to come your way. I think that one of the uh, one of the things that I try to emphasize all the time when I talk to medical providers, that many times they share with me, like, we run tests on this patient, we we cannot find what's going on with them, but they're still not feeling better. They're still reporting feeling all these ailments, and there's like some numbers are not quite right, but we don't know where this is coming from. I'm like, what is going on in their lives? What is going on with them as person? How is their social network? How is their support, family, uh, professionals in other areas? I think that one of the things that has always been kind of like this crazy idea that you know we can talk about disconnecting somebody because their brain is not working, right? They're brain dead, but the body is still kind of functioning, but there is no more life because the brain is not working. But yet, when we think about mental health, it's all in here, it's all in our brain. And we don't make that connection that the reason why we're having all these illness is because if your brain is not okay, that's the engine that moves everything in the rest of your body. That's the computer that is telling every aspect of your body, this is how we're going to operate. So it's so important to look at all of us in a holistic approach. My body, my mind, my brain, my spirit, they're all connected. And it's very important for me to be able to look at myself as a whole and look at you and look at everybody that I have interaction with as a whole, not just what you tell me, oh, I have a headache, right? Take an aspirin, but also what's happening with your life. Why may you be feeling this way? Is there something that you're not happy about?
I love the way you can make those connections, Julio. When we talked about having this conversation, you were the number one person I wanted to be here for this. I really appreciate your perspective. As we talk about forming those personal support networks, it might be natural to reach out first to friends and family. I think it's a natural first step, but in my own experience, family can be a blessing and if not a curse, can be a bit of a minefield when you talk about support. Biology doesn't necessarily mean that they're on your team, so to speak. Can you walk us through the process of sifting through all of those personal relationships, family and otherwise, and the process of kind of cherry picking the ones, the individuals that are going to be a part of our own team, our own support network?
Absolutely. I think that one of the first things for me is to look at what family means to me, right? I think that um, in some of our cultures, we're told like, you're family no matter what. That's the first thing that I want to remove. Like, no, we are related by blood no matter what. However, that doesn't mean that you have to continue to be part of my family. I have an amazing family. And every time I say that, especially around people who know my biological family, they kind of give me a crazy look like, hey, I know your family. They like you have some very special characters in there. And I'm like, yeah, but because you're thinking about family in a concept of biology, the reality is that family is very important, but we have the power to decide who our family members are, what we call family, and who those connections are. I try to make sure that there's always like people that I can have a back and forth, that I can share once again the gifts that I have, and that the gifts that they bring are something that I want in my life. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has their own issues, but you know, just I use an analogy in another of the sessions about the school and how we go through different grades, right? Like it's the same thing. Like you have somebody who's really good at physics, somebody who's very good at mathematics, somebody who's a chemist, the PE professor. So they all bring the different gifts to our life, and not one person can be that solution for us. Sometimes we look like, well, I'm married and I bounce ideas back on my significant other. Well, what if that person doesn't have the tools, the answers, or the peace of mind to be that bounce back? So leaning on family and friends is very important, but also to know, are they the right person to lean on? Do
I
they have the space and capacity right now for me to lean on them?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love the way you talked about the person may you talked about the spouse. So one might think that that's your number one go-to, your ride or die, so to speak. But if that person doesn't have the skill set, the ability, that's not a pejorative. You just might have to supplement what that relationship is and bring other people into your circle. I hope I'm not taking what you said out of
Oh,
context, Julio. Is
absolutely,
that
yes.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
I'm married to a beautiful man who has a lot of talents, and he's an incredible computer like wizard, and like knows a lot about technology, but he will never understand what I do for a living on day to day basis, that human interaction, because his talents are others. So I know that if I need to bounce back some of the things that I go through on a daily basis, I have some of my friends who are social workers, caregivers, home care providers, that they understand what it is like to carry the heaviness and sometimes the sadness of like hearing people's troubles day in and day out, and that I can hear somebody telling me, hey, it is okay, we do this because we love it, but we have to leave it at work, right? So if I talk to my husband, as magnificent and amazing as he is, he knows that he finished a program in a computer, and that's where it ends. There's not there's nothing to carry after.
I really appreciate you fleshing that one out, Julio.